Hi, I'm a DevOps engineer. Another day, another deployment, am I right? Wrong, I can't get my Jenkins pipeline to run. Why, you may ask? It has something to do with my YAML file. I'm losing my mind while debugging this issue because I have to go through hundreds of error logs. The funny thing is, I'm not even supposed to be in DevOps. I was hired as a software engineer. But because I work for a startup and we're short-staffed, I had to hop in and help out here. I digress. As a DevOps engineer, it's crucial that you're well rested and get enough sleep the night before. But do you think this matters to my managers? Not at all. As a software engineer, I used to be excited for new releases, but now I dread them because unfortunately every new release creates a new problem. But that's okay because as a DevOps engineer, I must keep calm and deploy. Hi, I'm a DevOps.
Hej, cześć, good afternoon. That was Sam, a DevOps engineer. How can you relate to what he said and what he struggles? See thumbs up, smiles. Yeah, I think we all experienced at least some part of these. That was Sam, and I'm Radosław Szulgo. I'm Senior Product Manager and Tech Evangelist at Dynatrace. And today, I would like to inspire you to do something with such experience that Sam had, and do the better stuff. We do it with GitOps. I'll share experiences of how have we applied in my company those practices, what we have enabled, what we have automated. But first of all, some housekeeping. 2 weeks ago, Great. 2 weeks ago, I was on a conference, on a tech conference for software engineers, and there was one speaker that was telling very controversial things. And I was thinking, oh, what a bullshit. And I haven't told that to him, but I thought, I don't want to be the guy, the speaker that actually tells the bullshit but doesn't know actually about this. So please, 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 if there'll be a bullshit, I will say, shout bullshit. And you could be quite anonymous, at least left side to right side will be quite anonymous, I think, if you shout. So that's rule number 1. And rule number 2 is that DevOps is dead because, well, all of them. Because, well, DevOps are not ops, ops can't do devs, and DevOps. Go on! Catchy. Same thing as I discovered that Earth is flat. Bullshit. Exactly. That was a practice. I see you got it. Thank you very much. Hopefully, you'll remember that rule. All set. So, okay, you know a little bit of myself, and I would also like to know a little bit of you. So I'm currently taking a role of product manager. I was a software engineer for 10 years, team leader, working with DevOps heavily. But what are your roles? Are you all DevOps engineers? What's your role? Okay. Okay, AWS operator. And your role? DevOps. And your? Katie? Platform engineering. And your? DevOps. Who's not DevOps? What's your role? Data engineering. Okay, cool. I want to say that no matter of our role is that we actually value the same things. We value productivity. We want to do our stuff better, faster, more resilient, more available, better, enjoyable, funnier. We all do. And we need to think, how can we do this? And if I recall myself, like a couple of years ago, when we had a team and we were building a monolithic app, it was great. We had our operation team as well. And whenever we wanted to get new hardware, get new instances in the cloud, set up new dashboards, set up new alerting, anything we want from the operation team, we just requested that. And we got it, and that was all cool. But it's not like that anymore. We often work, and so my team also grew and the product grew, to not only one team, but actually to many, a dozen or even more than 100 of teams that build different microservices, and they all want to do or to take more or less same things. I want a dashboard, I want an instance, I want to set up your roles in the cloud, I want some alerting, I want to see logs or watch logs or whatever. And that doesn't scale. And that brings operations team or DevOps team a big headache. And we thought, the first thought actually, when we discovered this problem, that there is a bottleneck, we had some questions and thought, platform engineering, maybe you should build platform, but then is that really a good solution? On the one hand, that's costly, that's also, we don't have experience in building such platforms, and we are even uncertain if that will work out. And the other question is actually if we are alone in that problem, how others solve this. That's the questions we had. And today, if I would be in that problem again, I would take a look at the State of DevOps report from this year. So one of the reports were published in January by Puppet, and it indeed focused just on platform engineering, because that's a very important aspect. And if I would be then, I would discover that actually there is a model of how you evolve your platform, or how you evolve your organization or your team into platform engineering. It's not like I just hop and you are there. There are some steps. So the first step is actually that you start with normalizing the technology stack. So if you have one team working on Python, one thing working on .NET, one team working on Java, one team working on something else, that will be extremely hard. Second step is to standardize and reduce variability, so different things that change often. Then you expand DevOps practices, of course, apply culture, automation, sharing, and all the stuff that that Tim was sharing actually in the morning about the columns model. Then you automate the infrastructure delivery, right? So you start to define your infrastructure, for instance, as a CloudFormation definitions or any other or Terraforms. And then you can provide self-service capabilities at the end. So that's the road you go. The second thing that you can discover from the report is actually you can find out that the platform actually have a very positive impact on development velocity. And you would find out that significant majority of teams are actually positively getting the platform teams and increasing their velocity. How much? Very much. Right? Most of them either experienced an increase in the development speed. Many experienced a great deal of improvement. So it's really worth. But there was also a second report published just last month. I'm not sure if you have heard. Google also did that, also named it State of DevOps 2023. And that opened really my mind and my eyes. Why? We all know probably the pyramid of Maslow, right, of our needs. We know the pyramid probably of a healthy diet, and the DevOps also have our own pyramid. And the very bottom, on the very fundamental phase, there is employee well-being. Surprise. It's the essential and a core thing to care about, well-being, because it reduces burnout and it's increasing satisfaction and productivity. If we have our teams burned out, then we can't do any improvements. We can't think even about improving team performance because individuals are not being well. So the second level of the pyramid is actually empowering teams, right, to innovate and collaborate when you have met the well-being employees. And then you can think about the organizational performance and think how you can get better values for your customers, for your organizations, and so on. The other part of the report actually brings really 5 key insights that are essential and things that I would like you also know and are aware of. And the first key insight is to establish a healthy culture, right? So we communicate well with each other, have a healthy culture, no blaming, and it occurs that actually those generative cultures, healthy cultures, have or impact 30% of organizational performance measured, right? The second thing is that you have to always build anything or the platform specifically with your users in mind, whether that was developers or your users, customers, whatever. And it occurs that actually applying that insight, that practice, also improves significantly the organizational performance. The third insight is actually that the technical documentation matters. And we used to say, documentation, who wants documentation? So Google measured that, and actually the teams that treat the documentation or technical documentation seriously, provide well-documented things, are much more performant. So 25% higher team performance for those teams that maintain a very good documentation. So it also matters, don't forget about this. Fourth is my favorite, because I was not expecting that at all. Distribute work fairly. And you know what? It occurs that underrepresented respondents, underrepresented meaning minorities, women, report 24% more burnout. It also, we found out that underrepresented respondents are doing much more repetitive work. And surprise, surprise, women do much more repetitive work, almost half more than others. For me, that was like mind-blowing. Like, come on, can't be. So think also about that thing. We are all equal, no matter of our gender, ethnicity, religion, sex, whatever. And the fifth, increase infrastructure flexibility with the cloud. And here the report claims, quite I think validly, that those teams that use public cloud are reporting more flexible infrastructure. They can do better, faster. And those actually that have flexible infrastructure have better organizational results. That's basically this. Right, so these are all 5 insights. I would like to take you with you. These are important, and these would make your life better. And to sum up, actually, all those two reports is that internal platforms increase productivity while keeping the team happy. For me, that was something new, because I always thought it's only productivity that matters, and it's not. Whoops, sorry. Yeah, so then back to the question about building the platform. How, if we know that actually the platform matters, that brings better value, better performance, how can we build that with the least amount of costs, right? We are most from Poland and from other countries, so we also care to build something easy and cheap. And the solution here is short, GitOps. GitOps was the thing that actually helped us to build our first internal platforms very quickly. What it is, for those that don't know yet, GitOps is a paradigm with a set of practices, and in short, those practices are empowering developers to do the stuff that normally ops would do. For instance, provisioning infrastructure. And the only thing that is required to do GitOps is to have your product or the thing you want to GitOps to have describable and observable with a declarative specifications. For instance, infrastructure is declarable or definable with Terraform providers or CloudFormations or other languages, right? And the other thing that we applied is API principle. What is API principle? API principle in our teams means that everything what you do, everything what you start to do, every new feature, every new service, every new functionality, you start with API. So you're building a REST API to build prototypes, to validate with the user if that's what it should be, and ensure that API is not forgot. So there's no UI at the beginning. The MVP contains REST API. And REST API rules are quite simple, right? It's a typical RESTful APIs that we have. The rule or the requirement that we have on APIs is that they have to have those 5 operations like fetching all, fetching single, creating, updating, deleting. And then each object is identifiable by a unique ID, so we can refer to this. All APIs in our company are described exactly like that. And to not tell you just things, I'll show you things if I can. Demo syndrome, my Chrome crashed. Give me one moment. Sorry for that interruption. Okay. And to share, I need to do it like that, I think. Oh my gosh, that's totally a live demo trick. Okay, like that, right? So you can use Swagger API if you don't know yet. That's giving you already a UI and a good documentation. I already mentioned that good documentation is important. And all our APIs, and we have quite a lot of them, to configure our application, are all built in exactly the same way. So each method has all the operations I mentioned, right? And Swagger actually can generate you out of the box UI like that. Let's go back. All right, so how have we applied the GitOps, right? So back to the title. So I'm gonna present you actually 3 examples of how we applied GitOps. One example is how we applied it to infrastructure as code. Second, permissions as code, and the third one, observability as code, because actually our product is for observability. So we also enable our customers, our users, to define observability as code. And the first project that we automated or enabled any developer to leverage or provision cloud instances is Cloud Control. So what we did, of course, first we described our infrastructure. So our app with CloudFormation infrastructure, right? So we had CloudFormation templates created, but obviously you don't want to give the templates to all of the software engineers around your organization, because CloudFormation itself is that big and it's that complicated and you can easily make a mistake. So we've built that UI wrapper with a simple HTML forms that you can select, hey, I want to provision a new cluster with, I know, 3 instances in that region with that size, and that's all. And the rest is hidden, and all these parameters are passed to the CloudFormation, and it's being executed. What we also do, we control the resources. So with APIs of AWS, we pull how many IPs we have used, what's the limit of our IPs, or how many instances we have. If we want to control the number of instances, we watch it constantly, show on the dashboard, and everyone is aware how many we are consuming right now. And the third thing, there's also a REST API in AWS that can tell you what are the maintenance windows, for instance, or maintenance events from AWS. So, for instance, you have requested to provision an infrastructure, an EC2 instance, and it might happen that actually AWS will recreate your instance at some point of time because they are switching the degraded hardware. And if you don't want to be surprised by that, like had an unplanned outage, better watch the events from AWS and react on that, right? So we display all the events that are related to our machines, our EC2 events, so we know that up front. Second example is project UPM. UPM stands for User Permission Management, and Heimdall. That's also our service. What it is. So we wanted to, of course, make the complex process of creating new resources easier. And if you played with AIM roles, policies, setting up permissions in any cloud, you know it can be quite complex. We also wanted to have a single point of truth related to permissions that all our employees have, and we run or we deal with all 3 cloud providers. So with GCP, with AWS, with Azure, we have multiple accounts, and no one ever knew who has access where, or even I have known that actually I have access there and here and there. And so we wanted to have a single point of truth. Third thing, we wanted to have, of course, permissions management via pull requests. So also to enable anyone to elevate their permissions. So how we did that, we created 2 services, the UPM, so to assume a given role. So if I want to access AWS account, I want to assume the least privileged role, so I don't break anything, no terminate the instance by accident. And we built the Heimdall AWS that actually translates our request to elevate permissions into CloudFormation AIM policies. So how it works is actually we describe a AIM role policy in AWS. We leverage the feature called session policy that we can assume a role for a given session, only for that session. And the union of this is the permissions you get. Right? Maybe that will be clear here. So we store all our groups, permissions, and policies in a Git repository here, actually in the Bitbucket. And we have the UPM UI that actually displays you to which accounts you have access and what roles you can assume. Right? So I can choose consciously if I want to go with admin right now or with just read-only things to not break anything by accident. How it works? It works that if someone wants to elevate the permission, for instance, when I was a team leader, I was a little bit frustrated when every time a new team member came to my team or an intern came to my team, it occurred they don't have permissions to do something. And I had to create a ticket to our admin team or ops team to set up new permissions and so on. And that was ticket, and that was longer and longer and longer. That was frustrating. Now I have a template for the permissions, for instance, for my new team member. And I just submit a new JSON file to the Bitbucket. I create the pull request, admin just review and accept. And that's a lot easier and faster. Then the Heimdall AWS actually gets that JSON files, generates CloudFormation, and apply it. And on the same thing, also updates the records in our AWS QLDB, so stores who has what permissions, so we can display in the user interface you have just seen. Right? So I can see that I have permissions here, 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 there. We'll do questions at the end, okay? Now you tell me. Funny. So many surprises today. Yeah, I wanted to show this like in more visible colors, right? So the intent was that in the UI we clearly see that, hey, for instance, this user or I have access to free AWS accounts, and these are my roles that I can assume whether I want to upload something as free or with admin or just with read-only, right? So that's what it's taking from the DB that we put on processing the pull request. That's how we solved this, right? So we manage permissions in a GitOps manner by submitting new pull requests with a fairly easy JSON files. And this gets processed and translated into CloudFormation and applied to AWS. That's quite an easy concept, I think. And the third example, actually the closest to my heart, called now Dynatrace configuration as code. And let me tell you a story about this. So that's my favorite because, well, that arised from a need. So we found the need that actually our users and we internally didn't want to actually configure each our instance of a development instance of staging or test or production, yet another instance of production manually every time, everything, and keep all that in sync. Or for that test scenario, someone had to configure this, and that. That was too much. So we thought, we need to automate that. We need to enable anyone to submit any change to production, to staging, to dev, to this instance or that. So we started to build a hackathon. We did a hackathon, and within, I think, a week, we invented, we actually applied that GitOps approach, and we thought, okay, if we have those REST APIs, let's then take those APIs, dump to the JSON files, and treat it as in a GitOps manner. Then we give that to the DevOps team that normally was responsible for applying those operations as our customer zero. The principle we have at our company is drink our own champagne. Don't mistake with eat your own dog food because it tastes bad. So we drink our own champagne in the DevOps team, and they've used it, they like it, they love it, and we thought, well, if that's so good, then let's open source this. So we've open sourced this, so also our customers can use this, and it's now available as Dynatrace monitoring as code or configuration as a code. You can see the code of this. That's, I think, a Golang. Very easy tool, I think, because it just executes REST APIs, to get JSON, stores in the files, and if it pushes, then it goes put and post. So we called it Monaco, and unfortunately not because the team is in Monaco, which probably would be great to work in those towers, but because it's monitoring as code. So with GitOps, we, like I said, we took that configuration as code. So we got the version control for free. We have the pull requests, approval modes also for free. With Bitbucket, we get all the workflow for free almost. We apply the promotional flow, so we can take one configuration snapshot of a given use case we want to configure and promote it to the other stages, also for free. That's why GitOps plus Bitbucket or GitHub or any other tool is such cool. We also can synchronize configuration across environments. So if we have a given state of a production or our product in production stage, and someone goes and manually reconfigures something, clicks and manually, then with GitOps approach, we can resynchronize this because we apply the state again and revert all the changes. So we have our configuration under control. And also we can create fast packs. For instance, for our test team, they have fast packs like a bundle of a given configuration set that they want to run their Selenium tests. Also pretty cool, for free. So how quickly this works, so you can also be inspired. So the Monaco, a binary, when wants to retrieve or dump the configuration or check what's the state, it executes all known APIs with the get method, right, to our product. Easy, right? As a result, gets a JSON for each call, each object, and stores in a separate file. And then stores in we store it in a Git repository. Cool. Then, if you want to work with this, you pull the changes from the Git repository, of course. So you have the JSON files. You can edit then those JSON files or add new JSON files. Monaco processes this, and whenever it sees that there is already such a configuration in the product, and there is a JSON file, it executes a put to modify the object state. If there is a new file, new configuration, it executes a post. Fairly easy, and if there is no file, it deletes the configuration, right? Fairly easy. So I want to show you a demo, how this works in practice, and especially to feel how the GitOps works. That will be quite hard, but we'll make it, I think. Time are good, I think. Alrighty. Let me open one more page. Okay. I know I have many tabs, but we need to make it. All right, let me log in. Or maybe like that. All right. Here's my test user. Of course, I prepared that before the demo, but everything crashed, usually. All right, so that's our product. And I've prepared a dashboard for us today. Dashboard. All right. And that's our dashboard. All right, so that's our dashboard, and we treat this dashboard as a configuration aspect, right? This dashboard is configurable, and think about this as any configuration aspect in your product that you have. Our dashboard is describable or described by the JSON file, right? And what I'm gonna do. I'm going to open the terminal, and that's my repo, where I have dumped the configuration of the product or the stage. Here's the dashboard we will work on. Like I said, defined with a unique ID. And what we're gonna do a simple change, and we'll change the tile markdown, and we'll write something more like Warsaw 23. Hello everyone, it's GitOps from branch. Right, we'll store it. All right, and what we usually do, of course, we do checkout. We create branch, demo1, and we want to commit, of course, our change B7 with a comment. It's at demo time. Yeah. And like that. And we want to push. And probably I need to remote as well. So we'll do the push to the remote repository. And I have set up, all right. We do the push to the branch. And I have prepared the GitHub. That's the easiest one. Just again, I need to sign in. I have clicked sign in. Oh, come on. Come on. Yeah, I'm seeing. Yeah. Alrighty, and GitOps is where? Here. All right, and we need to create the pull request. All right, so that's exactly the one that I did. Creating the pull request. And I have also prepared a simple GitHub action that actually pulls the Monaco binary and executes and applies to the pulled code. It builds and apply, so it works. If I switch to the product again, yeah, you see that exactly the title was changed, right? So that's actually how it works in a GitOps manner. Let's go back to the slides. All right. So that's quite simple and very powerful, I want to stress. And when you enable such a capability for your product, you can not even expect how others will use. And one of the examples I want to show is what we have seen in one of our teams when we enabled Monaco, right? So I've already described that, right? So if you want to use it, you just apply your observability or monitoring as a code to your typical application code. You store it together. You create dashboards like you want, or just together with the code. So for instance, when you introduce a new service or a new metric, you just added to the observability as code as well. It gets executed together with your pipeline here in Jenkins, and that deploys to a given product. And yeah, of course, that makes the operation team is now happy because everyone can do the self-service way. And what I wanted to show you that is the real example. And one of the teams actually worked with Azure. And what they did, they wanted to enable their team, the other teams, to request a new environment in our product. So they have created with Azure Web App a simple web form. The team member can request a given configuration change, a given environment. Then they have used Azure Logic App to build a pipeline to actually run this. So instead of Jenkins, build a workflow with Azure DevOps, and it creates the product change. And what I wanted to say that if you have APIs and you enable teams to consume them, to automate them, you enable self-service, right? And you can't expect how great things people will do just with the single mindset change by providing APIs for everything you have. Right, with some, of course, values, I'll skip. So quickly to wrap up, 4 takeaways for today. First, team enablement is key in DevOps. Second, that internal platforms are proven way to increase productivity. Third thing is that productivity and well-being are foundational for organizational performance. And the fourth, that API principle unleashes the power of your services, right? Because it can make self-service. And I would like to leave you with a sentence of one of the cloud engineers that is really close, and I relate to that at most. And she said that the last thing you want as a DevOps engineer is to have your developer team ask you for something and you don't have it for them. With REST APIs, you always have it. Thank you very much. Sorry for those interruptions. Those were unplanned. If there are questions, of course, feel free or contact me myself on LinkedIn or email or however you want.